Now, what we're going to finish up on, and we're well ahead of schedule, is the TurnKey Recovery Program. Kurt is our Director of Operations. He'll go over it, as well as then I'll come back in and start talking about, remember that form that I told you was kind of the Willy Wonka and the chocolate factory, the golden ticket? That's the FMIT endorsement of the program that's in your policy. First of its kind, in a municipal type form. Now, we've worked with all the parties to get it in a form that we feel is the right form. It's still a work in progress. So you may look at that, and if you have some information that perhaps your team wants to share with us, then again, reach out to our team. Go ahead, Kurt.
If we haven't met, as Mike said, my name's Kurt Waterman. I'm the Director of Field Operations for Synergy and the TurnKey Recovery Program. It's my job to manage the day-to-day operations in the field. I oversee the ride-out teams, our project managers, and our various subcontractors. And so it's my pleasure today to tell you a little bit more about the program. This is a great benefit of your policy. In short, the TurnKey Recovery Program is a vendor direct repair program where we come in on behalf of insurance, assist with repairs, and your claim from ride-out all the way to rebuild. It's important to note that this is available not only on CAT claims, but your day-to-day claims as well. When I talk about TurnKey, I always like to break it down into three high-level benefits, and they are no out-of-pocket cost to you, the member, assigned project manager, and expedited procurement. I'll start with the out-of-pocket cost. So all costs under the TurnKey Recovery Program are paid for directly by insurance to your vendors and subcontractors. Your only out-of-pocket cost is your deductible. In the event of a CAT, the first thing we do when we get to a loss is identify procurement for that deductible, how we're going to satisfy that requirement. I'll get into it a little bit later. Number one goal there. Number two, the assigned project manager. It's our goal to come in, really become an extension of your team and kind of take that labor burden off your hands. We all know that you wear multiple hats. We do as well. And so our project managers bring a level of expertise and professionalism that can really help out during a large loss or a CAT loss. As you saw earlier, the TrackDown mobile app, they perform daily project reports that are done in real time that can be sent to any member of your staff, whoever you choose to receive them. And then lastly, the expedited procurement. It is our job and responsibility to validate the cost to insurance through various measures or justify the cost. Our number one goal with the claim is to really help you maximize your eligible insurance proceeds while ensuring that we don't we don't jeopardize any potential federal funding you may be entitled to, perhaps some reimbursement from FEMA for your deductible, as I said earlier. And I mean, that's the summary of it. I'd like to talk to you. Are we okay on time? Just kind of run through a couple examples of turnkey claims that we have. First, Tropical Storm Eta this year. It was kind of a nuisance storm. A lot of that property damage mitigation coverage came in. South Florida, a lot of wind-driven rain. We did a lot of courtesy drying and select demo for our members. The notable larger storm was Hurricane Sally that hit the Panhandle. As you saw on the map earlier, we deployed about 10 to 15 ride-out teams. After about 24 hours, it was evident that the most significant damage was in Pensacola. So we shifted all of our resource to Pensacola. Within 24 hours, I think we had a 10-man crew there. Kind of unique. Mike mentioned it. They have a baseball stadium, which also is a Airbnb, one of the few in the country. So our team was able to stay in the stadium while we helped rebuild the city and the stadium. So it was a challenge with COVID. As Mike said, a lot of our ride-out teams were in hotels. Luckily, this city had a baseball stadium for us to stay in. It was a little different though this time because there was there was less city staff involved. I mean, we had a 7-story city hall with less than 10 people working in it. And so the city really relied on us to help with their recovery. I think in 3 days, we did about 225 damage assessments on all their assets and immediately began, mitigation and recovery services. All in all, we ended up with about 65, 70, long-term projects that needed significant repairs to the buildings, which I'm proud to say we finished in less than 6 months. We're out of there. That member came out of pocket. Mike talked about reserves earlier. Their deductibles were totaled around $1 million that they came out of pocket. We picked up the other $7 million for the projects that we were involved in. So, and then day-to-day claims, I'll just give you a few examples. One was in Pensacola this year. I think it was Thanksgiving weekend. We had a air traffic control tower, 7th floor hot water tank burst, coming right up on Thanksgiving weekend. So the airport called, freaking out. They got to stay operational. FAA's there. They want to shut the place down. I'm on the phone with Forrest. I've got to bring in a temporary tower, and things escalated quickly. So we were there to support through that, keep them operational, through the holiday weekend. It's a big airport. And then some smaller day-to-day stuff. I mean, we do lightning claims, we do park claims, little windstorms. We had a fire in Lauderdale Lakes, a restroom building was burned down for the 3rd time, I believe. Fences, everything. So we're there to support you. As I say, and I said a couple years ago when I saw you guys, I mean, this is really your turnkey recovery program. We're here, your needs are all different, and we're flexible, and we're here to support you. Something that a gentleman brought up to me earlier, a question that wasn't asked, I think it's relevant to touch on real quick, is that these ride-out teams, when they come out there, as Taylor said, they're not the know-all. It's not your only visit. It's the initial damage assessment. It's really to kind of identify, what your needs are, where our resources need to be sent to. So there's going to be other site visits. After the damage assessment team, you'll have an IA, as Mike said, then possibly an engineer, not to mention, your 7 visits from FEMA. And so we're here to work with you and kind of walk you through that process.
Great. All right, and that was a big thing that we've tried to take, when we started the program, and this started, I think 12 years ago, when it used to be we thought we had all the answers. We'd bring everybody in to be the team. Then we figured out that, guess what? You guys have a lot of good contractors. You have a lot of local and folks that have earned that business, that maybe built that building. Maybe they're on a maintenance contract. While Turnkey has the capacity, and we'll bring contractors from all over the country if need be, and we bring them in staging areas. So they're already on the ground, we've already inspected equipment. The goal of the program is to use those contractors that perhaps you already have a relationship with. Now, to take that, in order to make sure in a timely orientation, right, that first we got to know who your contractors are. We showed a screen earlier on with Vero Beach and some of the others that have already given us some lists from years past where, hey, here's our preferred contractors, or here's some key contractors that service buildings, or here's some relationships we've already established. Well, guys, we recognize that. That's really paramount to the program, is let's get those that are already familiar with who you are, your buildings, and we'll work with them. Now, to do that, that puts a little bit of some heavy lifting on your end. You got to get us some of those names, because we need to reach out to them in a coordinated effort so they first and foremost know who we are, and secondly, we have a way of contacting them, and we have a way of understanding engagement, because we're going to be contracting with them on your behalf. We're going to take on that exposure, that liability. We're also going to indemnify you. So Synergy acts as that general contractor in this role. FMIT is a payment vehicle. And we work through this program to expedite recovery. Now, we can do that when we say expedite procurement. That starts with you. That's a conversation that we need to have with finance and those people. So do we have finance procurement in the room? Right, some of you? Okay. Well, that's a conversation we need to have, because they've got to feel comfortable with the process to know that we're not just coming in and telling you this is the way it's got to get done. Our job is to expedite. The greatest thing with FMIT is that they're not FEMA from a standpoint of, or city saying, you got to choose the cheapest vendor. Now, obviously, there's still a great deal of financial prudency that still has to go on in that. But we take on a many variant circumstances. When Kurt said, Forrest and the team were working around the clock when the control tower at Pensacola International Airport hit. That's our second loss there in a period of a couple years where we had to keep the airport operational, which with TSA and Homeland Security brings in a whole nother deal of passengers and secured areas. And when Kurt just sloughed over quickly, yeah, we brought in another air traffic control tower. That isn't down at United Rentals, okay? That takes some pre-planning that goes into conversations that we've had with Pensacola. So the fact today that some of this may meet, not that it's over your head, some of it is, hey, it's out of my area. Sounds great, hope we use it, but have that conversation with us so that we make sure that we're doing our job to communicate hopefully effectively with your team off of what these programs are. It's tough for us when we have to answer to our other bosses, which are your bosses, those that sit on our board of directors and the league's board that looks and says, well, why didn't I know about that? It's stuff in the program that takes time for us to work through. So that's why, again, that little QR, what do I call it, QR code? I'm learning technology as we speak. So this QR code, if you take a picture of it, it'll take you to where you can download all the material we talked about today. All of it's there, from sample COOP documents to the FMIT TurnKey Endorsement to the PowerPoint today, everything else to hold us accountable or to then lead us into how do we have that next conversation. That then you just pick up the phone, call Luckner, call John Ligon, and then have that conversation of, we'd like to further this discussion to make sure we understand it. If that doesn't work for you, you can always log into Simplicity. All those forms are there for you as well. The third option is just pick up the phone, email us or call us and say, send me what I need, and we'll get that over to you. I told you again, the FMIT endorsement, we talked about it. No need to go through it more in detail. It's a form in which tries to, from the FMIT standpoint, clarify what the TurnKey Recovery Program's intent is, what the terms and conditions are. In the trivia, for those that got it right, it's within 100 days of a loss, which, guys, let's go figure. If we haven't decided the direction of our claim in 120 days, okay, there's probably something there that we're still working through. I don't mean to make fun of that. We have some buildings that it takes us a while where other insurance companies would have already closed your claim or said, here it is. FMIT's there to work through it with you, especially on those opportunities to improve the building. Maybe there's a capital improvement. So there's some outside the box approach, but at some point we had to set some parameters on it. I hope that we're able to understand short-term, long-term recovery well within 120 days. Okay, so we get started on that path, but that's kind of the term. So it explains it, it sets some conditions out there so you and your team can review it and say, yeah, it makes sense. Or you know what, maybe we need to have another discussion on this to better understand it. So we have that, and then the other thing we have is in the election form. Now the election form is, as we've now worked with FEMA and the state, their ask of us is to, hey, we see that you've got it in the policy now, understand that it's a federally kind of guidelines we're trying to follow. We need to make sure members are electing the program, that they give notice, that they recognize it's in their policy, and that they're utilizing it. That's the ask for us to be able to also do this a little bit more seamlessly, that when the FEMA consultants come knocking and start putting you between insurance, and again, we went through that discussion. Most of the consultants are trying to do the very best job they can of protecting you from incurring costs that would put you in a position to be deobligated. And some of them no other way. They're 1099 guys from across the country. And they're here, they don't know this program. There's only another municipal trust that's doing this, and they're not in Florida. This is first of its kind. It's something that FEMA's recognized. The problem is we have a lot of changeover every 3 years. So every time momentum comes, these documents get lost in the weeds sometime, and consultants jump on this because they want to take control of your claim. Be smart, look at everything. We've been doing it for 10 years. I'll show you where you can go see all the different stories through hurricanes where FMIT has supported their member through this without a deobligation. In fact, what were our years that we represented 15 of our members with large deobligations from FEMA to about, Chris, 100 million they were claiming at one time? Is that about right? And the FMIT took the lead through a program that we have in working with our members of helping you in a deobligation of as a membership. It took us 3 years, Chris, about right? About 3 years. We finally quit knocking on wood or my head. We settled for less than 5 million. Instead of you having to go out on your own and hire those consultants, the league stood up to help defend. There's opportunities within the program to do these type of things. So these forms help us get past some of those states if we're confronted with it, okay? Some of the new technology that we're using. Now, these are some things that we would really expect you as well. If you're not using TurnKey and we're validating complex losses or everything else, we need to utilize new technology that in the last 2 years has become not only cost-effective, but user-friendly, and that is, we have abilities now that we can take the drones and satellite and shoot 3D imaging of buildings and automatically scope out buildings without even walking inside. It's cool. FMIT is able to do that because of the investment that they've made in technology and other vendors that come together to serve this. Guys, this is huge. Again, we take advantage of all the cool tools that FMIT puts out there, that we're able to maximize the benefit of trying to get it right. Last but not least, we put flowcharts up. I know it's tough to read. When we meet with you, we'll develop as much interaction, as much guidance as you want, or as much as you want to say, this is the way we want to see it done. We'll create the flowchart. We build it between what emergency services typically are to what permanent recovery is. And then we talk about the separation between the two. That maybe we have a certain protocol for emergency services, and then we take a breath when it comes to permanent recovery, and we huddle up. And we say, you know what, we want to continue this relationship, or you know what, maybe we're best at this point to come up with a different game plan. Or maybe we need to do something differently as we go back to permanent recovery. That's our opportunity to make sure that we've not lost ourselves in trying to be recovery heroes, right? At some point in the claim we go, why are we building this back? Or what are we doing? At some point we got to stop what we're doing once the building is stabilized to say, what's our smart end game here? Because that's really what the claims department wants to know. We don't need a lot of practice on the turnkey side of building buildings back. We got a lot of work and we do a lot of different varying things. We're there when you need us and we're there where it makes sense, okay? So that's where sometimes this flow chart helps, because it helps differentiates what the services are. Next, if we need to put an org chart together, you're a larger city, you've got lots of different people involved, then we'll sit down and have that discussion. We have one of these with Melbourne, with Vero Beach from previous administration guys, where we've sat down and said, okay, this is our team, here's where money comes from, here's where you fit in, here's adjusters, here's FEMA, here's what we do, here's how things. Guys, as structured as you want the program, we're there. Now, it doesn't require this, because I can't do all this. I'm kind of a cliff note, right? Snap your fingers. But a lot of other more intelligent people on our team that will sit down and define these roles to make sure that we're responding in which way you want that makes you different in a good way. Okay? Procurement we talk about. This is Michael, Hurricane Michael. This just shows you too, one of the things that we do, we have an RFP solicitation that's on the website, list by city, click on the city. It'll bring up every scope of work with everything that goes into that. A lot of times when we greenlight a program that we're still going through procurement, we can procure things and close it in a week to 10 days in a very responsible approach, reaching out to sometimes 40,000 vendors. We'd prefer to keep it closer to home. FEMA's now done a pilot program that they've now just approved for this year in Public Works, where now they've said on federally approved grants, you can now prioritize local contractors. Before you couldn't, right? We took those that came from Louisiana and California, and whoever showed up was low bidder on a federal project. Now in a Public Works and an infrastructure, it is now you can prioritize a scoring system on local. So again, we're trying to keep our local contractors part of the equation, which helps your city recover when that tax base is kind of in on it. So we continue to try to drive that home as well and get it in some of our insured aspects, but right now Public Works is where it stands.